Dr. Mohammad Yunus, a Nobel Peace Prize winner, is lauded by global elites, but an equally controversial figure at home.
Mohammad Yunus receiving his diploma and medal from the leader of the Nobel Committee, Ole Danwelt-Mjøs.
A genius of personal branding, Yunus, with a web of deceit, created an empire by selling poverty, flowing funds at his own whim, and building a network with the world's most powerful and influential people. An egoist by nature, Dr. Yunus portrays himself as the pioneer of microfinance by giving small loans around 1974 in partnership with National Commercial Bank and University of Chittagong. But during the same time period, BRAC and ASA started their own microfinance program in 1972 and 1978 respectively. Grameen Bank was established long after in 1983 under the Grameen Bank Ordinance 1983 pushed by Yunus when the country was governed by martial law. According to the ordinance, Grameen Bank members owned 60% of the shares and the Bangladesh government other 40%. But in 1986, it was manipulated with an amendment where Grameen Bank members hold 75%. However, an investigation found that as of December 2010, the real share should have been 3.29% by the government and the rest 96.71% by Grameen Bank, which is a direct violation of Section 7 of the Ordinance. The Grameen Bank Ordinance 1983 declared that the Board of Directors should be comprised of 13 members. 3 members, including the chairman, would be appointed by the government. 9 members were elected from borrowers or Grameen members. The managing director, who will be considered as a government employee, would hold the other seat and would be recruited by the board with the government's consent. In 1990, during the height of the anti-dictatorship movement, Yunus took charge of Grameen Bank's administration as managing director by again manipulating the ordinance, removing the clause of government's consent on recruitment. In 1999, at age 59, just 1 year before the mandatory age limit for a managing director of a bank, he again pushed the law. The rubber stamp board approved his employment as managing director without any time limit. An investigation found that he has violated the following rules as a government employee as well. Foreign tour without approval from Board of Authority. Receiving foreign funds in personal name without the approval of authority. Not declaring himself as a full-time employee of Grameen Bank while establishing other associate companies and institutions. With unchecked authority, Yunus started creating a labyrinth of deception. Since its inception back in 1983, Grameen Bank received donations and loans from international organizations like IFAD, NORAD, SIDA, KIDA, USAID, and Ford Foundation. The main purpose of these was to provide microloans to the poor as resolving funds. Instead, Yunus started 2 not-for-profit companies, Grameen Fund in 1994 and Grameen Kullan in 1996, with 49.1 crore taka and 44.25 crore taka respectively. Using these funds as equity or loans, Dr. Yunus created 34 other companies registered under the Companies Act of 1994. In all the companies, Yunus and senior officials from Grameen Bank served as chairman or director of the board while still being a full-time employee, exposing each company to a massive scale of insider trading. Yunus also started 11 other entities at home and abroad. Many of these companies were closed for business by the early 2000s and merely existed as shell corporations. The existence of these companies had nothing to do with the microcredit for which the fund was originated. In November 2010, the Norwegian Broadcasting Corporation NRK broadcast a documentary titled Fanget, Microgjeld, or Court on Microdebt, exposing the unethical nature of these fund transfers and their possible implications. The documentary found that Yunus transferred almost $100 million of European origin from Grameen Bank to Grameen Kollan. Norwegian Agency for Development Cooperation or NORAD's donation of 219.6 crores taka to Grameen Bank was also transferred to Grameen Kollan. On 8 January 1998, giving an explanation to NORAD, Yunus wrote, "If the donation is kept in Grameen Bank as a revolving fund, eventually a vast amount of tax will need to be paid for increasing tax rates," thus explaining the existence of the shell company's role in tax evasion. While under the protest of NORAD and the Embassy of Norway, Yunus returned some funds to Grameen Bank. More than $70 million remained in the web of the shell companies. Except for NRK, many international media like the Washington Post, New York Times, The Guardian, and The Atlantic published reports regarding this web of unethical business practices. The biggest money gravity in this whole web is centered on Grameen Telecom, which was started with 100% investment from Grameen Kollan with 53.26 crores taka. Grameen Telecom has a 34.2% share of Grameenphone, the largest mobile service provider in Bangladesh. According to a government report published in 2011, the shares of Grameen Telecom in Grameen Bank have a market value of 8,000 crores taka. There was no trace of Grameen Telecom paying back Grameen Bank or being used for microfinance. Instead, it was used to fund 11 other limited companies. There is a clause in Telecom's company registration that 5% of the profit will be shared among its employees, which never happened. In light of the complaint, a case was filed under Sections 4, 7, 8, 117 and 234 of the Labour Act. A case was filed after the ACC investigation against the accused found the truth of the allegations of embezzlement of money laundering. Yunus was accused of embezzlement and money laundering of more than taka 25 crore 22 lakhs from the workers. The defendant showed that a settlement deal outside of court on 9th May 2022 was documented. The case also alleged that the workers' dues were transferred to the bank accounts of several union leaders without informing them before the dividend was distributed. In 2022, the Anti-Corruption Commission sought information of all bank accounts of Dr. Yunus and Grameen Telecom for misappropriating its employees' welfare fund and embezzling taka 3,000 crore to various affiliate organizations. The verdict has finally been announced. Dr. Yunus was found guilty of embezzlement and violating labor laws, along with 3 top Grameen Telecom managers. He is sentenced to 6 months in prison and fined taka 25,000 each. Dr. Yunus's case is perfect representation that each wrongdoing has its own retribution.